Welcome back to your Feel Good Breakfast Show. This is Expresso and you're in S3. And South Africa celebrates National Disability Rights Awareness Month annually between 3 November and 3 December. And it's a month that offers to improve the quality of life of people with disabilities through concrete action, not just all talk. And here to chat to us about disability awareness and sensitization coordinator at the Western Cape Association for Persons with Disabilities, Erica du Toit is here. And we also have a disability researcher and activist Michelle Botha, who will be joining us on our panel today. Ladies, thank you so much for joining us on what is a fantastic month to celebrate, to inform, and to just share. I think that's the most important thing about this month, as we go along. So thanks a lot. I'm sorry for getting up so early. It's an occupational hazard. But Erica, just from your side, when it comes to the Western Cape Association for Persons with Disabilities, what exactly do you guys do?
We're a social development organisation, a non-profit, and our aim is to empower people with disabilities, to walk with them once disability has happened, to the point where they become independent. So we have 24 branches across the Western Cape that provide those direct services, urban areas, rural areas, to children and adults. And then, as you said, my role at the organisation is about raising awareness on disability so that people can understand what it is and the impact that it has.
So empowerment, sharing, accessibility, information, which is vitally important, which is wonderful. Now, Michelle, I think it's good to know where we are before we begin this month as South Africa in terms of accessibility for people with disabilities. Do you think that we are on par with where we should be, or do you think there's a lot more work to do?
I mean, the short answer is I think there's a lot more work to do.
Okay, good.
But I think access, when we think about access, we have to think more broadly than access to space and access to the physical environment. And in some senses, we're doing a little bit better at that. We understand that spaces need to be made accessible. We have policies to help us to do that. But it's not just about access to space. It's also about attitude. It's about whether our society is actually welcoming of disability diversity, and whether we make space in our relationships, in our communities, in our social spaces for persons who have different abilities, for persons with disabilities, and that's really where I think we need to be working and we need to be focusing.
And I do believe that there should be more mobility and flexibility with regard to companies who are employing individuals with disabilities. If there are a lack of access points, there's got to be something that they can do in order to inform the company to bring in the infrastructure, and which is vitally important because, as you said, it's not just space, it's also about a whole myriad of different things that we are going to be discussing today. Erica, a month like this, it's not just a month where we are just celebrating, of course. A campaign of this magnitude, how important is it to fundraising, to awareness, to actually getting the ball rolling on making sure that this is top of mind throughout the entire year?
Well, it's incredibly important. So, as Michelle said, we need society to be welcoming, to be inclusive of people with disabilities. And we've got this brilliant legislation that protects the rights of everybody, but unfortunately that's not always the way someone with a disability experiences life. And so campaigns like these make sure that disability is kind of front and center for the rest of the public who perhaps don't think about it at all, but that they at least are made aware, but they come to understand what disability is and what does it mean for the individual, and how can they be more inclusive in their everyday life.
And Michelle, for you, a month like this, I mean, what's the aspirations from your side? If people were to watch this and look, hey, it's Disability Awareness Month, what actual message would you like them to take on board to carry through this month?
I think it really echoes what Erica was saying. As persons with disabilities, we are a part of South African society, and we have something very valuable to give to our society. We bring something beautiful to the world. And I think, again, that attitude of welcoming, inclusion, Not just saying, here's an accessible space, but saying, we welcome you into this space. We welcome the diversity that you bring and the contribution that you make to our society.
Absolutely. And I mean, just on a personal note, I like the word differently abled. It's just like a thing that I like. I like jumping on board because what I enjoy about that is that, we all have our different types of skills and strengths, etc. But sharing those and how we cope and accommodate, I think that's the most beautiful thing about it. So I'm looking forward to this month. This is why we have you here as a panel. We're looking forward to actually unpacking so many different questions from you as well. So if you'd like to ask any questions and also keep on sharing those in your life who are just going beyond their own adversity and making great things happen in their own space as individuals with disabilities, please send through a little voice note, 063-408-8863, as we continue our panel discussion a little bit later. And our panel will grow by one in the next couple of minutes or so as we continue broaching this amazing topic on your Feel Good Breakfast Show.
It's my Feel Good Breakfast Show.
Welcome back, you beautiful souls. Thank you so much for joining us and rejoining a vitally important conversation this morning. The theme for this year's Disability Rights Awareness Month is empowering persons with disabilities through resourceful, sustainable, and safe environments. And our panel is still with us this morning as we continue to explore what this month is actually all about and how people living with disabilities here in South Africa can be included. Ladies, thank you so much for joining us. Natalie joining us as well. Thank you so much for joining. What I think is I'm beginning to understand possibly the most important conversation about representation, about being able to see yourself, especially as a young boy or young girl, represented in a meaningful way within society. From your perspective, how important is it to have your tribe around you, to have people supporting you in your life, knowing that your challenges are different to what a normal person will be going through in that space? How do you feel about the support structures around you?
I feel it's very important to have those structures around you, especially your family and friends, close friends, especially with the difficulty with accessibility in this country. Without transport, you can't get anywhere.
Yeah.
And we are so easily isolated, and, it leads to depression, it leads to all sorts of other challenges, if I can put it that way, as a person with a disability. So your family is very important. Your friends are very important. Your spiritual life is very important.
Absolutely.
Whoever you call your maker to be. So, yes, accessible transport is a big issue.
It's a massive thing, and it's amazing how often that surfaces, and it's crazy because that's a practical step surely we can do something about.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And I look at the theme of this year, and I think it speaks to what you just mentioned now, sustainability, resources, and safe environments. Now, Erica, why are those the focus and key points of this month in Disability Awareness Month? Why are those the ones that you've chosen to focus on?
Well, as Natalie said, transport is so important.
Yeah.
And it is possibly one of the, I want to say one of the single most, but it is the largest challenge and the largest exclusion faced by people with disabilities. If you don't have transport, you can't get to work.
Yeah.
And we find many people with disabilities lose their work because they can't get to work on time. So it has a huge knock-on effect. And, if you don't have employment, you can't provide for yourself. And it spirals. So transport is a big issue. And Michelle mentioned earlier about accessibility besides accessibility to spaces. So we look at accessibility to information,
to school,
communication, to schools. So it isn't just about the built environment. It's about how accessible are people's attitudes towards people with disabilities and how exclusionary they are. How do we discriminate against people based on their disability so that they don't enjoy the same rights and freedoms that the rest of us just take for granted.
I'm glad you used the word take for granted because so much of this speaks to just getting to a level. Just getting to a point where a person living with a disability can start their day at the same place as everyone else, never mind moving forward or empowerment. Now, Michelle, I know a lot of your recent work is focused on visual impairment rehabilitation. How much of the South African population with disability have access to this kind of forward thinking about the notion of healing themselves and possibly moving forward with their lives? And what does that take in your experience now working in this space? What do you need help with, and what are the real pressure points?
Yeah, so the work that I've recently been involved in, as you said, is looking at people who lose their vision later in life and come into rehabilitation services. And, you know, on a practical level, there's a great need for better referral from hospitals into services. So many people get sent home with nowhere to go. But besides that, the main thing that really is lacking in these services is focus on psychological and emotional well-being. Because to lose your vision later in life is a trauma. And you can't just give people access to practical techniques and tools, as valuable as those are. People need to be helped to process the trauma that they've experienced and to move into a new, you know, it is a shift in identity, and to move into this new sort of positive blindness identity, there's a great need for that kind of support in rehabilitation as well, which is really lacking at the moment. And the people who participated in my research were really almost crying out for this kind of psychological support. You know, one of my participants said, I don't know who I am now. And those are the questions people are asking. Who am I? How do I move forward, not just practically, but emotionally, in my relationships? And I think that's a space where there really needs to be some more work and some more focus.
And that's powerful. And I'm glad you're voicing these concerns, because you never know who's watching. And that's the whole idea of awareness, is that we are going to use your voices as a means to make proper, tangible difference in our communities. And it comes through with accessibility, sustainability, safe environments. And this is why we want to focus this month. If you have any questions, please throw it our way, 063-408-8863, as our panel continues to discuss this key topic with you.
It's my feel-good breakfast show.
Welcome back to your Feel Good Breakfast Show. This is Expresso and S3, and did you know that South Africa has about 3 million people living with disabilities, equating to about 7.5% of the country's population. Now, we are wrapping up our discussion on Disabilities Rights Awareness Month with Erica du Toit, Michelle Botha, and Natalie Johnson this morning. Ladies, thank you so much for broaching this topic so beautifully. I did say earlier that you're naturals. Just really, we want you back here again and again, because I hope that...
Not too often, bud.
Well,
Not too often. Let's
often is fine. You're doing well.
You know, some of us, no, we love it. We love the fact that you have this platform, that you are so comfortable speaking about this. I think the greatest gift that I was given, certainly as a broadcaster, was working in the disabled space early in my career, being introduced to the most incredible sportsmen and super achievers that just dwarfed whatever I'd achieved in my own life. So I started using the term differently abled. And I've had some people living with disabilities tell me that they prefer not to have that term being used. Others saying that's a different lens to look at it through, but patting me on the head saying, good effort, nice try. And it begs the question, because when you don't understand, and this is maybe a lesson in privilege that everyone can go through right now, you don't understand. And how do we shift that perception? When you're preaching to the choir is standing up saying, yes, we all get it, but the societal balance, that weight of society, what needs to shift, and how do we do that? Does it start in schools with a grade 1 learner being seen in a wheelchair or seen in crutches, so that difference or perceived difference is just eradicated as early as possible? How do we do it?
Yeah, relationships. I mean, that's the short answer for me. Building relationships. And it does happen, it needs to happen when our kids are young. We need to, you know, that is the best time to build diverse relationships. You know, for me, in my own personal experience as someone with visual impairment, kids are the ones who come to me and ask the questions, and their parents are just cringing, thinking this is so embarrassing. But that's right. We should be open. We should be open to discuss, to talk. And for people with disabilities, you know, one of the most important things is to recognize that someone knows what it is like for you, and that you're able to tell someone, this is what it's like for me. And I think that's so crucial.
That's really beautiful.
So it's the other way around in my household. Now my son cringes generally when I open my mouth. I think that's how it works in our house.
So, Natalie, if I can go to you for a second, because I love what you mentioned, Michelle, is that it's that understanding that real empathy, it's not just, shame. You know, it's actually real. Like, I understand, and I want to be part of your space and have a conversation with you, start a relationship with you. So what is your message to anybody who does feel alone in their own disability? People who feel like their access points are too far, and the only access point perhaps now is their TV, Expresso. What would you like to say to those people who are feeling this way in a month that is sort of built to lift?
Well, there are organizations they can reach out to specific to their disability. Erica, for example, works for Western Cape Association for Persons with Disabilities. So if you've got a physical disability, reach out to them. Visual impairments have Cape Town Society for the Blind, for example. Epilepsy South Africa, Western Cape is there. So there are organizations out there who are willing to help you. They've got support groups, they've got social workers to support you. Reach out to others. You know, don't isolate yourself. Even if you don't have transport to get anywhere, pick up the phone. There's WhatsApp, there's TikTok, there's all sorts of social media to reach out. So it's very difficult to isolate yourself these days with all social media around. But then again, if you don't have anybody's number and don't know who to call, you are going to be isolated. So the help is out there. You just need to reach out.
You can't believe you dropped the TikTok bomb. Wow. I don't think there's any coming back from that.
We can also TikTok.
Natalie, yeah, exactly. But no, completely.
Why not?
This is, bizarrely enough, it's in these social media spaces where I'm seeing the greatest representation. I've become, like, weirdly great mates with a blind sportsman who does the craziest stuff. So he'll get his girlfriend to teach him how to snowboard with spectacular results. But I love the fact that he's got 100,000 followers across the globe now. So there is an opportunity in that. What do you need from us, Erica, in this mission, I would imagine? Because so much of this gets gatewayed through one thing. You don't have transport. That's your whole life. It's gatewayed through the fact that you don't have transport. You don't have a wheelchair. You don't have crutches. You don't have a psychological support structure around you. We know that mental isolation has probably been the biggest threat over these last 3 years. That says to me that these are solutions that have an answer. It's not trying to solve some massive problem. Just get wheelchairs. Just get those access points to transport. How do we do that? What do you need us to do?
I think it all boils down to attitude. We need to change our attitude towards disability. We need to recognize that people are impaired, but our attitude disables them. And as Michelle said, it starts with children. We need to educate children in school. If we're afraid of something, we don't interact. And we're always taught, you know, our moms used to say, don't stare at that person. That needs to change. We need to interact. We need to teach children about disability. And kids will teach their parents. The parents will teach their friends, their colleagues, their, you know, the rest of the family. And that's how it will change. But we need to also understand that disability is very real. I wish it didn't exist, but it does. And as we age, a measure of disability comes in. So Michelle and I were chatting before the show, and we said everybody potentially has a disability, but it might not have happened yet. And so, you know, we're not asking for the public to help a small percentage of people. You need to work as if one day that's going to be you.
Completely.
Because in a flash, it could be you.
Well, let me put it this way. I think 5 out of the 6 people that we've interviewed over the last 3 years are standing still not because of a physical disability, but because of an emotional impasse. Something that they can't, a trauma in their own lives, a pattern that's been laid down in their own lives that they find far more debilitating than any kind of physical condition. So we need to get this in our heads. As we sit here talking, first of all, thank you so much for all of you for being brave enough to do this every day. Never mind.
Natural.
You can't come on our show every day, though. Just another warning.
No, I'm going to say yes.
Okay, we'll duke it out. But I think maybe a shift in perception within the schooling space, I say because of I have 2 young children. I know that would require a shift in the infrastructure within schools, but maybe this is where government and schools need to be talking on that plane, because we need young children to be making friends so that young children living with disabilities can have friends outside of that space and vice versa, so we can normalize this space. But months like this really are so absolutely important. So thank you to everyone who is on the front line fighting this battle. Yes, we will have you back, and you can keep those comments coming. 063 408 8863. If you've got any personal insights, please share with us this morning.